everyone. Welcome to Semi-Woo. This is Heather.
And this is Amanda. And today we are diving straight into our very first podcast that we recorded at Cloud Studios. Day one, woo woo. On this podcast, you're going to hear all about our sweet Christian upbringing.
And then the big dismantling of that sweet Christian upbringing.
How we went from kind of crazy Christians to crazy atheists and now somewhere in between.
Or on the end of the spectrum where we actually did a LSD ceremony in Joshua Tree and came out on the other end as the Pistol Annie tribe.
You're going to get all of that and more in this episode. Stay tuned, guys. It's our very first one.
Semi-Woo.
And welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. This is the first official podcast of Semi-Woo.
Oh, is it Semi-Woo or Semi-Woo? We'll leave it up to the audience to decide that.
Yeah.
Did you say semi or semi?
What did I say? Because
Semi-Woo.
Semi-Woo.
Yeah.
I like semi-woo. It flows more.
Semi-woo?
That's what you've been saying too.
It's more chill.
I like
one.
it. It's more chill. Semi-woo.
Semi-woo. See, there's this world.
Actually,
And,
to have a complete whole and then split it into half semi, you have to have two equilateral regions that then co-adopt the same vector.
And that has nothing to do with our show, but is what I like to call...
It's a science show.
Heather's science guy. That's your science
There's
guy.
a science corner,
Definitely.
and that was it.
And he always... And what's funny is that you can bring up words that, to someone like me who does not know science, would think sound perfectly correct.
And it is.
I believed what you were just saying.
And it is. When you say it in that voice, it becomes true.
It becomes true. All right, guys,
leads
this
us
is...
to the actual, what this show is.
Yeah, that's what our first episode's about.
We're going to explain that today. That's what it's all about. We're going to get into it.
We're going to get
Let's just get right into it.
Get right in. And people have asked us, like, what's this podcast about? Well, today is the day, if you don't know anything about Heather or Amanda, who is me, and this is Heather.
I am Heather.
And we're part of the Buena Vida. It's everything we do. It encapsulates our stuff, and we want to tell you guys what it's about and how we got to this point, I guess you could say.
Who the hell we are.
Who are these crazy, crazy girls?
Well, it all started in sunny Southern California.
Oh, that was
that's
cool.
Awesome, dude.
Thanks,
I didn't know you could do that.
I'll sprinkle them in here.
Wow,
and
well, we're gonna get to know Amanda together, audience.
Thanks, guys. Can I make a confession before we start?
Yeah.
I don't really want to be on the podcast. I was just thinking maybe I could just do noises and then you can talk, or should I talk to you?
You've got to talk.
I'm totally kidding.
I got
But
scared.
Thank you.
I know you were
took
kidding.
That real
I know you were
seriously.
kidding, and I held back from joking because I was like, I don't even want to joke about this.
Okay, good. That would be funny to just me sit here and just wait for you to describe something and
but
then
then
make
I
up a
like
sound
the
about
sound.
it.
I liked
I'll
the
do 'em.
idea
I'll
because
sprinkle
when
them
you
in.
did the birds, I got
'Cause it
so
was
I'm like, what
sunny
else does she
Southern
have?
California.
And then when you offered your services in that way, I thought absolutely.
I've never done a bird into a mic, and it sounded pretty good. It's magic. It's perfect magic. Anyway, so in sunny Southern California, where Heather and I met as college kids.
No, look at our list, our show flow list.
Oh.
It says growing up.
Oh, crap, guys.
That's so
Crap,
the
guys.
first time we showed up in sunny Southern California was when we were born.
Yes, absolutely.
We are from Southern California. We admit it, Seattleites.
Oh, big time.
And we ain't
There's
gotta have
no
no
way-
drama between
no,
us. It
no.
ain't no thing.
There's
Being
no
happy
California
ain't so
versus
bad.
anywhere.
If you want to know a Californian, go to our house parties and our lake day setups.
Yep.
We like to have a good time.
And we like to include everyone,
Yeah.
and we like to make sure that everyone's enjoying themselves. Because I'm enjoying myself, I want to make sure that you're enjoying
Yeah, it's like you
yourself.
might as well be here as well, enjoying yourself.
Yeah,
so we
great.
set it up for that.
It's the spirit. And Seattle, I have to say, I mean, this is a beautiful city, and there's lakes and mountains everywhere, so of course people are going to come here throughout the whole world.
And of course y'all are going to stay here. I've never been to a city where so many people were born and raised in that city.
I know.
That's saying something great.
It is. It's saying
Yeah,
that
like
people don't
you
want to
guys
leave.
get it. It's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, so Heather and I both,
We
in
can
our
say
own
us.
ways.
Now we have to split our stories because we're talking about
and
growing
so
up.
you guys
we
know
didn't
who
grow
we
up
are.
together.
No, all I was going to say is we both grew up in Christian homes, but they're very different.
but then so alike as
Praise
many Christian homes
Jesus.
are.
Right.
Yeah, do
They
some.
were
I
both-
thought you were gonna do a choir. Hallelujah. Nothing like that.
We'll have to make a whole podcast about us just singing praise songs because you guys, if you've never heard praise songs, they are absolutely amazing. Some are beautiful, some are absolutely crazy, and you couldn't believe you were singing them. But when you grow up in the church, you just grow up around praise songs from a very young age, and you get to know certain ones that you hear all the time. Then there'll be like the new, more like modern, cool
hymns,
ones,
modern ones. You know, it's funny. I just thought about that because growing up in the church is a whole life upon its own, and it was when I moved up to Seattle that I first met people that weren't raised in Christian homes. In Southern California,
Right.
in the 90s, everyone went to
98%
church. It
were
was just
Christian.
like, so you all were there. It was like going to weekend high school.
Yeah. It was part of everyone's life.
It was part of everyone's life.
Yeah.
And, you know, now when I think of it, because I haven't been to church in like 15 to 18 years, I'm not good at math, but
at least, yeah.
we kind of went to a concert every weekend.
Yeah.
And so if you had a good preacher that was like dynamic and, you know, could sell it and he was funny, if you had a good choir, if you had great vocalists, if you had, you know, good instruments, it was a pretty good show.
It was a pretty good show.
And they gave donuts and your friends were there and it was like,
man.
all right,
No
we'll
problem.
go to, you know, Sunday fun
That's
day.
where you have crushes.
Your
It's where
parents take you out to eat after church.
Yeah,
It's
that's the benefit
incentive.
of going, of course. But did you ever have like the one kid in class, and it's kind of like the one kid in class who had divorced parents. Like we were
Yeah.
of that generation. Like there was
Yes.
one
kid
whose parents were divorced, and we're like, what the heck?
Right.
I mean,
well, it
at
was
least
weird. Like
earlier
they
on.
didn't seem happy, but also there was all the tales of 2 Christmases, double presents,
crazy.
double vacations, and I thought, well, sign me up.
I know.
And anytime my parents would argue, I'd be like, you know, go
guys-
for it,
do you
Dad.
guys
Get,
want
you
to
know,
get
say it, Mom.
divorced?
You know,
So
little
two
part of me.
Christmases or
little part of me. But then I saw how frugal my parents are. They'd split a gift in half.
Yeah, they
That's how
would.
they do 2 Christmases.
you get less presents.
You get half of the Barbie doll house here, and you get half at my mom's.
Mhm.
They weren't going to do it right, so.
So the one kid that was divorced, also there was one kid who like didn't go to church. Did you know that kid?
Mm.
Mine, there was this girl named Erin. I was like, but what do you do on Sunday?
I didn't know
they
anyone.
never went to church, and I was like, and they were, you know who it was? Her parents were the like mystical hippie, like beautiful, you know, born in the like late 60s, total woo woo,
Hare
which
Krishna,
is what,
woo-woo
yeah,
people.
and you'd see like, you know, they'd have like peace signs and yin and yang,
And
you're
their
like,
lunches look
oh.
totally different from everyone else's
They would eat
lunches.
like tofu, and you're like,
Mom's hair
what?
is down to the
Totally.
butt.
That's how she was.
Tofu.
Tofu. The fuck is that?
Oh, I had no idea in the 90s.
No idea.
No one knew what tofu
It was the quintessential hippy dippy. What the fuck are you eating? Food.
It was what
Oh,
you
you're gonna
said.
eat
It was
tofu?
the
It sounded
rabbit
like a fake
food.
word. It sounded like a fake word to me.
Yeah.
Tofu.
Tofu.
I didn't think it was a real food.
I wonder what I even thought it was. I didn't have an association. That's how far away.
It's crazy.
It's so funny to think, you know, that's Southern California. And that's our world.
I know. And there was a lot of like, I guess maybe not in where we grew up, because I mean, I grew up in suburbia. I grew up in Irvine. I didn't grow up around a bunch of like free-thinking liberal
No,
hippies.
no
like,
way.
no, it wasn't in LA.
And
it wasn't.
in fact, in the church in the 90s, when the New Age was coming about, it was actually, we were taught to reject
Oh, all
all
of it.
things
Yep.
Eastern religion, all
Yes,
things
they're
yin and
evil.
yang.
Yoga.
Yoga was so bad. And they
I
would
know.
say, this is going to turn your mind. It's going to change your religion. They're taking God out. They take Jesus out of it. They're taking Jesus out of the religion. They're doing away with him.
It's like, Jesus is never in your religion, crazy people. No, it's so funny that like they're taking God out of it. It's like,
Yeah.
they're taking. First of all, your Christian God was never in it. So like,
Yeah.
what are you even talking about?
It was
No,
so
it was.
odd.
I always wanted to know about that stuff
We
growing up.
couldn't
And
wear the yin and yangs
No.
and Christian
Oh,
house
even
homes. No, a
jewelry.
peace sign was bad because they said it was a broken cross.
I never.
But that
heard
was the
one.
hippie. That was the, you know, anti-hippie. This is when all
I
the
know.
break was
I
with
know.
Buddhism and Hinduism and the
Any
cults
influence.
even. You know, anything.
It was
outside
all
of the
those
church.
dirty hippies. That's what our
And they
parents
lumped
thought.
them all together.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Other than that,
Mm.
so yeah, that's
That
where
was
we
our
grew up.
childhood. Luckily, we grew up with like a more, well, in my house, a very loving picture of God and Jesus. My mom was a school teacher, like Bible school teacher for kids. So it was very this like, Jesus loves you. And that continued up through. So I won't say I lived in one of those like rules, but totally a sheltered,
Yeah.
totally a lot of prejudice, bigotry. But then somehow Jesus was still kind and loved me. But he didn't like a lot of other people. And so when we went to college, this popped up. We finally met people in college that had those same discrepancies and wanted to talk about
this
them.
Is what happened with this is the strange thing about college. So I would be willing to bet that almost every single parent who sends their kids to Point Loma Nazarene, where we went, tiny little Christian school on overlooking the ocean in San Diego, I would be willing to bet that every parent that sends their kids there is like, this is gonna seal in these years of this religion. It's gonna like make it real. It's gonna fuse them into this beautiful Christian that they're gonna become. But what they didn't count on is that you're there with a bunch of other people from a bunch of different but all Christian backgrounds.
Yep.
And y'all are talking.
You're talking
about that
and
shit.
you're finally able to ask somebody,
yeah,
isn't it weird that like Jesus is both loving but is judgmental and can
incredibly
condemn
exclusive.
people?
Incredibly exclusive to like
and then
white
it's when you start meeting gay people and you've been told that gay people are bad. It's when you smoke marijuana but you've told it's bad. It's when you're sexually active and you were told it's bad. And all these things are actually wonderful.
So it makes no sense. So you're like,
so you start talking about that.
And you're actually taking Bible classes, and then you're able to talk to your teachers and be like, all those questions I used to have that I would ask in Sunday school where the teachers either would refuse to answer. They would just straight up be like, you can ask God when you go to heaven. That was a real answer that I got so often where I was like, I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense at all. First of all the other kids would look at me like, you're not allowed to ask that. Like if I would do the
or
big
that
ones,
you were trying to say there's no God, which at that point there was no thought in our mind that there was no God. We were just asking questions.
If anything, if I ever even thought for a moment, like a seed of doubt would have been like, I'm not sure I picked the right religion. And even that was impossible to admit. But I was like, no, I think I did.
My first thing was like, I can see in other religions that it's saying the same thing, or I believe a lot of the things over there.
Right. But I wouldn't like ever,
but I
like,
would
convert.
never have. I would try to like probably insert them in my own, which actually that's what Christianity ends up being. You blend it yourself. Every single solitary Christian has a different blend of Christianity. That was my big thing. I would go to preachers. I was very interested in my religion. I led Bible studies. I went to the camps and did the things and things like that.
I only went to the camps.
It makes sense now that I'm studying
and jumping on the giant water slide.
Oh God, kids there. Yeah, and I'd sit with pastors and they'd all tell me different answers.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh, based on their own life. Yep. Oh well, my wife and my kids. They even tie it into their life. I said, how does that fucking relate to me? I'm not an old fat white guy with 3 kids. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a young, horny 17-year-old and I need to know about sex. Like, who's gonna tell me about this? Because I'm wasting a lot of water in the bathtub masturbating. So that was an issue.
That would be a funny. But you'd be like, I have this problem where I'm just wasting a lot of water.
Yeah.
In the shower, and like,
just letting it flow. What I mean, bathtub on, not taking a bath, water running.
Are you getting this? And they're like, no.
Spread eagle, water running into eagle mouth, eagle beak. No. The water flow gives me an orgasm, but I'd like to know more about sex.
Yeah. Thanks for making me spell that out for you, Pastor Brad. Who didn't have a Pastor Brad? Oh my gosh.
He was the son of the pastor and that had tattoos.
He
was
a
a
guy,
cool
dude.
pastor.
There's
Pastor Brad, dude.
And he would even say like, I don't give a crap. And you're like, whoa.
Pastor Brad's getting real.
Hold it.
And Pastor Brad had a tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Like one, and he'd be like, see this?
See that?
I've done things. I've been out in the world.
Yes, I've been there.
I've been out in the world.
You guys think you look at me like I haven't? I have.
Look.
I was in a rock and roll band.
I was in a...
I used to have sex with lots and lots of women.
No, they wouldn't even say that.
Yes, they would. Some of them would.
I had
the ones who want to be
our Pastor Brad,
cool.
I've had a few girlfriends. Like, he had 3-4-year girlfriends.
Ridiculous. So that's growing up in the church. That's a whole... I mean, we could make a whole podcast
That's a whole other thing.
But that leads to us meeting at...
In college and assembling a really awesome friends group where we would sit in our garage, parent paid for, and smoke marijuana.
The first day we moved into the Hill House, it was like take everything out of the garage, and we were like by the end of today, this garage has to be a chill zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was so proud. And Melissa was spearheading it. It was like, get the couches in. We made that
we put
into
a carpet. We painted the walls.
Gosh.
We put up curtains. We made this garage beautiful with couches and vases and tables and pillows. And it became our clubhouse, and it became a safe space to open up and ask questions about our religion and all things life.
And all things.
Oh.
Where people wouldn't be judgmental or harsh or weird or questioning or like they were in school. Or if you said anything, it was like, why are you trying to, like, talk bad about Christianity? Like, why are you trying to be
Because we
bad?
weren't. We weren't. We just had a lot of controversy in what we were experiencing, what the religion was saying, that we wanted to confer on. And it did dismantle our faith.
It did.
It eventually,
slowly, with the help of marijuana.
And friends that read, Andrea and Jesse, a big part of
friends.
that. Well-read
smart.
friends.
All of us were in school
we're very smart,
or out of school, at the time.
And spoke our truth so easily around each other, we could get there into this state.
Can you imagine if adults had a space like this where it was like 10 to 12 people who 3 times a week all got together in this room and sat around and got high together and just talked about life.
Even life, parenting, taxes.
Anything, being a mom, like anything, but just like in a really fun, safe, awesome
And I doubt
space.
you'd reject it. Like at that time you were working through our religion, and we rejected it at that time for different reasons and in different ways. Like I think I went Eastern religion for a few months. I think I even went back to Christianity for a few months and then kind of swung.
Yeah, it was your last hurrah.
My last hurrah, which is so funny.
You're like, I'm gonna give it
my all.
Yeah, and you did.
Yeah.
And you were like, what
for 1 month?
Think if they hear that I'm a Jesus
freak.
And
I was a
Jesus
freak. I was like, I'm gonna go balls deep in this. I'm gonna remember everything I learned. I'm gonna do the sermons. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna ask. I wake up at 5 a.m, smoke weed and pray, which is fucking meditation. Yeah. Go on jogs, pray.
Join all the clubs, talk
to all the pastors. Yeah. And at the end, I was like, it doesn't connect.
No, it doesn't connect. It doesn't connect. That's all there is to it. But because of that, the natural progression is that most, if not all of us, just became like hardcore
pendulum
atheists.
Swung the other way.
Massively. For me, it was like once it started dismantling, I was like, yeah, maybe some Eastern stuff. And then I was like, maybe I'm just kind of more like an agnostic. And, people can't really understand. We all like grew up in different cultures. And then I was like, fuck this. And I went through a big, this is absolute bullshit. And I was like, the government and religion is all just a way to control your mind, which, parentheses, it is. But I was so mad about it.
And I was angry, and I thought Christianity needed to be stopped in its tracks. Stomped out.
And out of school.
And
out of everything.
When you are a Christian kid raised and in your very young 20s, you realize it's fake. Like, dude, it feels like you were brainwashed. It feels like you were lied to. It feels like somebody had taken your world and told you all these things that weren't true. So there was a lot of anger around that. Anger with our parents.
Totally. And my parents knew, but they never would like say it. Like I would stop going to church even when I was home for like the holidays. I was like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And it was very defiant. It was like, I'm not going to Christmas. I'm not going to anything. And so eventually they were just like, well, they would say like, what do you think about, my sister one time brought home this big book that was, my sister and my dad went through this phase where they just got obsessed with learning about Mormonism. And they were like reading all these books. And they were sitting around the dinner table one night and they were just laughing their asses off about how crazy the Mormon religion is. And they're like, and they have to wear the clothes. And then when you die, you get planets. And depending on how many children you have, you get that many planets. And they're like, oh, this is so ridiculous. And I was like, I come down and I'm in my Amanda mid-20s, just atheist, pissy mood. And I was like, you guys believe that a fucking lady who was a virgin had a baby who became a carpenter, and then because he died on a cross, that everything anyone does henceforth is automatically
and
forgiven.
Were made that fit 2 of every animal.
You guys are fucking crazy.
And floated the world.
Give me a break.
It was just
and you're sitting here making fun of. I go, what is the basis for you making fun of the Mormon religion?
Dude, because it makes you feel better. Because
it makes you feel like yours is right and theirs is wrong.
It's all you need.
And so that's when I told him, and I was like, I've talked to a few of my gay friends about this, and I always felt weird saying this because I have no way of knowing ever what it would feel like to come out as gay, because I'm not gay and I've never had to do that. But coming out to my parents as an atheist was like terrifying.
Yeah.
It was, you knew that from that moment on, there was a very good chance that they're never going to look at you the same.
Yeah.
Never.
And they haven't.
Looked
at me the
same. And
same.
my mom said to me, she's like, when I'm on my deathbed and I'm going to be praying that, you know, that you're getting into heaven. It was basically like, for many years, I thought that I was going to have to tell my mom when she was like, you know, if she was like passing away, like, Mom, I changed my mind. I'm a Christian. Like, I'll see you in heaven. Like, just so she could have a peaceful death. Because that's what she told me.
Remember, like, certain people's parents rejected them. Kicked
Yeah.
them out,
Absolutely,
wouldn't let them in, just like any other religion, like Mormons or
anything. Yeah,
absolutely.
A lot of them, I know. So it was a big deal, and so that pushed me even further into this, like, I'm just gonna like be my own person, and you only live this one life, and you know, and then you go into the dirt, and not understanding at that time any sort of anything beyond that. But so
yeah, and it's so funny
that's when we came to Seattle.
That's, you know, at the end of the day when we were in San Diego, we fully believed in our atheism, and it did start to soften, but we wanted to talk more about it, and we lost that sort of community that we had in college because we all moved to different places, and we heard about I always wanted to move to the Great Pacific Northwest, and we heard that there are atheists up there, and there's no churches as far as the eye can see, and that it's all science. I mean, oh God, we were all science heads, and like. So
only
we shot down to Mexico for 6 months. We'll talk more about that another time. Right. And then moved up to Seattle.
Yeah.
Where that leaves us on our first break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our first little break.
Yeah. This is the first break we've ever taken.
And you guys don't even have to take a break. We're just going to drink some water and actually be back in less than 2 sniffs of a stiffy snail.
Because science.
Beep bop a doo. Welcome back, guys. That was like no time at all. For us, we expanded it into water time and hangout time.
And just relax time.
Relax time.
We had left off with our move to Seattle.
Yes.
We came for the atheism and we stayed for the delicious food.
That's true. I did enjoy it at first, I will say. Just meeting with people and not having, like, saying that I didn't have a religion or saying that I was an atheist was no problem here.
No problem.
When you said that in California, people would be like, well,
in fact,
they'd be like, I wouldn't go so far to call myself that. I would never go that far.
It shocked people.
I know.
I lost friends. I lost mentors. None of my professors and old bosses in the school would talk to me.
True.
Like, I lost friends on Facebook or it was MySpace.
Yeah, it was.
Big deal. Big deal when your numbers fall out like that, when people find out you're an atheist.
It was so funny. But it was nice in Seattle for a while.
Oh,
but what's funny is that at the same time of finding this new identity is I lost any sort of interest or connection to, like, any group of people that would talk about
spirituality, Christianity,
human spirituality, even self exploration, and all I was concerned about was like scientific articles and like things of the intellect, and I was not interested in things of the heart or things of the spirit.
Right.
I didn't know what the fuck that was.
Yeah, not until the very end of me living here, hanging out with Darlene, talking mildly about more like law of attraction. Like, I think a lot of people came in on that intersection that resonated with people. So it was in that world, but it definitely wasn't meditation.
But that's when it was super
spirituality.
Woo. Like people were like,
that was
this
super
spirit,
woo.
Like
when the secret came out, it was a joke, and it was like.
But it was popular, but it was a joke.
It was popular, but it was a joke, and you'd
the
laugh
movie is
at
kind
it.
of a joke.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the actual
movie. Interesting, but even now, I can see the big gaps in it that I have questions. As somebody that is a skeptic, we still are to this day. There's even kind of gaps in there where I'm like,
Yeah, there's some things about it that aren't quite making sense.
But I do absolutely believe in.
But I like the practice of it, not just like you make a dream board and you put it up there and then you just think about positive. Yes, I'm gonna get the car, and then you get it all. It's not even about that at all, and it's actually more about whatever you think on, like that your thoughts do become things. So like they have to just be positive. And if you can't think positively about a subject, move on to something else.
And that being something makes you that thing. So if you are a person that thinks, has a negative attitude all day and you're not very kind to people because that's a pattern that you create, you have a world that you don't have a lot of friends and you're not kind and you do take on this curmudgeon's attitude and you are more negative.
And those
that's
things
just
are drawn
by the
to
pattern. And then you draw around things that corroborate your world.
And
you look
people
for
that
them.
piss you off.
Look for them.
And people that all the things that you complain about, you just start finding a lot more.
And you look, because you're like, I'm pissed off, and
this
sucks, and this sucks, and this sucks. Now you live in this suck box.
Yeah. And every day sucky things happen.
Yeah.
But now we're in the opposite world where it's like every day amazing things happen.
Yeah.
Including, can we just take a little side note to say, we are recording this podcast in a beautiful, awesome professional studio
at Cloud Studios.
In Capitol Hill.
It's just one of the things that, you're right, has been happening lately when we have this project that is this, by the way, a dream job. A dream job to have a podcast and a podcast we care about and with each other. We were comedians actually for the last 8 years and
on and off, all types.
On and off, improv.
That's what New York was about. We moved to New York because we were like, fuck Seattle, we gotta go to the big city, big lights and big opportunities. That's how I thought when I left Seattle. I'm like, Seattle's too small.
I was like, get out of here. We had a show, like a well-attended show,
going away show.
And it was awesome, but we were done. It was like senioritis.
But when looking back, fun. Like we had such a great sketch community here, and there is an insanely positive
amazing
improv and sketch world in Seattle that I hadn't experienced in other cities, and we were blown away.
Actually, didn't see anything compared to what I saw here.
No. Yeah. The people that perform here, there's like Sketch Fest. There's all these things that like we were even a part of. What was it called? Like Cause for Oil or something.
Yeah, it was more like something about Sketch for a Cause.
Sketch for a Cause, and oil was the cause.
Right. Or sustainable.
A world without oil. That's what it was. That was the prompt for the sketch. Was imagine a world without oil, and then what would just
we
make
even
a
had
sketch
to read about that at the time. And we won. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And during that time when we were performing, we met some awesome people here. But we moved to New York still with this ideal and this idea that there were artists living in, these massive sunny lofts, writing and creating and
collaborating.
There's all artists everywhere. And it just turns out you're fucking serving food in a restaurant you don't care about for rich people that don't give a shit about your dream. They don't patronize the arts anymore. They don't even patronize. Rich people in New York don't patronize the arts. That's why it worked. They would buy art. They discover this new dancer, this new, and
it's all corporate. Yeah, that's how everybody. And it's like the whole idea of selling out is gone. Like you just do sell out. Period.
You do.
There is no, oh man, you were gonna do it real, but then you sold out. People are like, people in any art now will take any opportunity, any sponsor. Oh, I'll drink the fit tummy tea. I'll drink the fucking fit tummy tea. You want to pay me $1 million? I mean, I won't. By the way.
What does it taste like?
The irony that if Fit Tummy Tea offered us, I'm like, we don't have Fit Tummies, so why do you can't offer us the tea?
Well, they'd take one look and be like, oh, no, yeah, no.
Yeah, but those people that advertise that schling all like the teeth whitening, all the stuff on Instagram, it's the same 5 products. It's like fat tummy tea, Smiles of Atlanta, and it's like, look, I did my teeth whitening, and these people that just have nothing to do with that are hawking this dumb stuff. But that's paying for their life.
Yeah.
So that would be tough, man. If you had like a Instagram or a podcast or something, if someone comes to you and they're like, here's $300,000.
Dude, it's because people look down like, oh, you sold out. But now what that means is I don't have to go schlep food.
I know.
Or even if you work in a great, because the irony is working in a restaurant sometimes is fun and it's social life. But no, at the end of the day, it starts taking you from what you actually want to do.
And you don't
And
do
in
that.
New York, you have to do it so much to afford your lifestyle.
You do.
So
You're working constantly
if you can
and or
sell out
drinking because everyone's just...
and just work and just do your dream work all the time, I'll sell some fit tummy tea. That just means you get to do what you love more these days.
It just makes you... To me, it's like I wouldn't... If I really believed in what we were doing, and I do, that sounded crazy, like, and I don't, and because we suck, but I do believe in what we're doing, and if all of a sudden I was having this, like, podcast that's all about authenticity, learning who you really are, like, trusting in your dreams, which is what it's about, and they're like, oh, by the way, buy this dumb fucking product. Like,
no, I'd have to believe in the thing. I mean, I would, let's see, the things I would sell are, like, organic watermelon. If somebody wants to sell it like that.
Also,
Costco,
Vitamix, Costco, and Spec phone cases. Those are pretty much the only things I really believe in.
I like my new water bottle right now.
That's a great one.
But I gotta keep hanging out with it before I rep it.
Takea water. This is Amanda and Heather on Semi-Woo. We love your...
Cupcake Royale mini cupcakes. If you guys want me to say that. And the staff that works there. I'm just shouting that because they're around the corner, but they're super cool. And they've already actually given me cupcakes. I owe you this. So...
All right, guys. So we moved to New York. We moved to New York with a big dream, and it's everything. This is just the amazing thing about life is you follow your dream until you have a new dream, and that's just the way that things work. And if you get so caught up in that you have to complete this one dream, it really slows down the process of just becoming who you are eventually. So I moved to New York and I'm like, I love improv. I'm going to go to UCB. I'm going to take improv classes. I'm going to get in the theater and, I would like really, really hardcore pursue improv. And I did do that. Yeah. I did go to UCB. I did spend, I saved a bunch of money.
And we put on shows, like really well-attended, hilarious comedy shows with our friend Vanessa. Shows. They were wonderful, but it didn't feed us.
Well, we didn't want that as our entire lives. We saw the people and what it took to make that your career, and I was like, oh, this is a hobby. This is something I love, and I don't want this to make a grind. I'm not going to grind. I'm not going to make a grind out of this. I love this.
Going to open mics all the time, and the drinking, and the, pining, and the...
And who you know, and meeting this person.
And you got to smile at them or frown at them. You got to talk about this thing. And just repeating my material all the time.
Yeah, we didn't like that about comedy.
No way, man.
It comes up naturally for us, and that's why this makes more sense because it's never going to be the same. Like, we're not going to record a podcast and then memorize it and have to do it next
week. Just play it again. Could you...
Hey, guys. So we're from Southern California.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I can. Can we do a podcast about how I just do that? It would be horrible. We could never repeat anything.
We could never repeat anything.
That's why sketches make.
No, you didn't repeat that.
Crap.
That's all good. But so it was in New York, and that's why we kind of came around because we went there for our dream. We went there like, what we want to do is comedy, and we love writing sketch, and we love stand-up and improv. Let's go to New York, and let's do it. And then we got there, and we went full, and we go, we don't want to do this. And when that fell away...
Ooh, that's scary.
And we lived in New York City, and it just wasn't cool enough. If we weren't doing comedy, it wasn't...
We didn't drink enough. We didn't do fashion enough. Like, I didn't do anything enough to warrant spending that much money being in New York City.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have to be there.
I just ended up working really... Well, we did get a dream job where...
of course.
We got this weird startup job where we were given $5,000 a month to go just hang out and explore New York's bars for an app and then tell them about it.
It wasn't even a real
And that was for like 8 months, and it was with 20 fun people that became our friends. So that was fun. But after that job faded away. But that even wasn't a purpose. It was like, that's when I was really going through this time of, I was like 33 or so, like having this kind of like, I'm in my 30s, like what the fuck am I doing? I'm schlepping here, I'm schlepping there. I wanted to do comedy, and then people are like, what's your comedy? What are you gonna do? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not gonna pursue that in this hardcore way, but I had dreamt of that for so long. Even though it wasn't like super, like, again, I was never the person who was 8 days a week at the open mics, and I was never, and I knew every comedian, I never was like that because I really just love it as an art. It's my expression. It's the way I express myself. It's my art. Yeah.
So but it wasn't like all I want to do is like make money off my art. Like I wasn't like that.
Yeah, I'm good. Like as long as we're like hanging out in the living room with friends, laughing, like that'll
It's just
sustain
the
me.
doing it. It's the
Yeah.
doing it that's great. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna make a career out of this. But then I was like, now what, man? Like I
Yeah.
kind of fell out of my religion. I don't have the church. I don't have that group of people.
We
You know,
were
my friends
not
drink.
on
I'm
the
like,
West
I'm drinking too
Coast.
much. Like, what
Yeah.
are we? I'm like, what am I doing? And that's when, through what can only be described as like kind of pure magic, that at the same time all this was going on, I was had been really getting into DMT and these basically like videos on Netflix that were about psychedelics and kind of like getting back into that world. And I had watched DMT, The Spirit Molecule, which is on Netflix. Mr. Joe Rogan, who we love, is kind of this, he's like the crazy zany host of that documentary. It's pretty funny. But it was something that when I first watched it and I started getting into all these things, and that led to learning about ayahuasca, which if you guys don't know is an incredibly heavy psychedelic that's a brew that's primarily in the jungles of South America, but is starting to make its way definitely into even, oh my God, since we found out about it, into the psyche, just in incredible, huge ways. When I first learned about ayahuasca, I would say only 1 out of like 40 people would have any clue what I was talking about at all.
Right.
And if it was, they were like, oh, do you know about that? And you're like, yeah. They're like, my friend did it. And it was
people
quiet.
didn't even know how to
They didn't
describe it. There
not
was
at all.
I don't even know if it filled out the top 10 search results on Google. You know what I mean? I think then the last one would be like, you know, mushrooms or something. Like it wouldn't.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of information.
There was hardly
on
any
it.
information. But there was these documentaries and these kind of creepy documentaries on YouTube where people were like throwing up in the jungle.
And Netflix had a fringe, you know, like 4 videos. Now there's tons. But like 4 videos, the Spirit Molecule being one, and like a DMT one. So you could watch those.
Right. And then there was just crazy YouTube videos and people one-on-one,
Lisa
like,
Ling. There was always the Lisa Ling one. That was a big one back in the day.
It was. Yeah, it was. And that one was, for what it was CNN.
Yeah.
It was pretty well balanced.
Yeah,
I was
dude.
surprised. In the beginning, it's a little bit like people go to the jungle
and
to
like
throw
the
up
struggling
and barf.
Vietnam
It's
vet
like, really?
and the anxious, you know.
Yeah. So I had found out about it, but I was like, this isn't for me. You know, like, yeah, I like mushrooms, and I've done that a few times with my friends, but I'm not, you know, I wasn't like big time into psychedelics by any means. And one day I just, what only, it's funny how to say this because at the time I was such a skeptic about everything that even thinking this was ridiculous, but I was like, I felt like I had a calling. Like I felt like that medicine was a calling, and I had been reading in these blogs like, oh, you'll feel it when you need to do it, or it will kind of like call to you. And I was like, yeah, right. So in my head, I'm like, I'm going to go into this. Like, I do need to do this. I had told you, you know, I was just like real cranky and curmudgeon around that time. And I wasn't doing anything. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And it was a tough time. And I didn't love New York. And it was winter and it was snowy. And I was stuck inside our tiny apartment. It was, as many of you guys know who've had a rough winter, it can really get you down.
Yeah.
So I read about this place called Gaia Sagrada in Ecuador that was they do 12-day plant medicine retreats. And the website is like crazy. It's all
like
over
90s,
the place.
Like
90s rainbows and just all this information about like the woo-wooest woo-woo stuff ever. Like crystals.
And no mincing words on the woo. It was
no
just like
words, that it's all
straight
real.
up. Didn't even understand some of
spirits,
it.
demons,
Yeah.
angels,
And
angel cards.
The reason it still comforted me, it was so matter of fact.
I know.
And I'd never really read anything so matter of fact about something I didn't know about,
and all of that stuff. But I was like, oh, I've heard of all this stuff, but I
Heard
don't
of
know
it, but
what it
never
really
knew what
is.
it was.
And I was like, I feel like some of this is scientific and some of it absolutely isn't. Like
she was marrying the two so seamlessly, and I was like, what?
Yeah. But it felt comforting. There's something
Yeah.
about that website and about that, which ended up being very true. And so I ended up going down there and doing the 12-day retreat. And I have a YouTube video up that kind of goes more into my personal experience. If you guys want to hear the whole long story, so you can, we'll make a link below that you can check out our YouTube. But long story short, it really kicked my pants and kicked me into gear and just kind of made me a more confident person just in myself and able to go back to New York with like a little bit of a more like fire under my ass about moving on. But it also cracked wide open this whole spirit world. And I'm like, oh man, like maybe some of this stuff is true. So then I started getting back into like, okay, well now I have to reframe and redo what I'm thinking about these topics, you know, and that has been a big job, and it continues to this day, for sure. The ones that make sense, the ones that don't, the ones I believe. But here's what I'll say, the number one lesson I learned that was completely different and can only be done personally is that it made me trust personal experience as a valid form of knowledge. And I was like, personal experience is junk. Everyone's experience is different. It has to be studied. It has to be in numbers. Otherwise, it isn't true. And I took no value on personal experience. I'm like, I can waver with the wind. But the things that I saw and experienced just affected me so much that I'm like, this doesn't have to be true, because it is true for me and it's not harming anyone, and it's made my life better. And that's how I view these topics now.
And it was just an entry point. So when Amanda was in Ecuador, I was in New York watching the dog, and
holding down the fort.
In that apartment, it was one of the first winters that ever kind of put me in a more of a depressed state, and seasonal affective disorder. And I'm super crazy, glasses half full, positive, I will say that. And I love that about myself. But to feel depressed, to feel in this state of where things weren't easy, and I was more prone to ask tough questions and more prone to go kind of deeper onto a side that at the time I would call dark. I realized I wasn't happy. I noticed that, like, where I used to love serving because it's providing experience for someone, it's food, it's laughter, I love the hours, I love being on my feet and not sitting behind a desk. And I was realizing that in New York City, it just felt like I was serving like people that didn't even notice I was there. And the whole reason I was serving is like these connections. And if you don't like who you work for and you don't like who you work with, then like, what the hell? And I had the same thing as Amanda, like, what am I doing? I'm not a huge drinker. That's the only things everyone was doing in February in New York City, is sitting in bars just
or any month.
Quietly drinking, or any month. But it's quieter in February. And then everyone says it's a city that never sleeps. I'm like, maybe not in the summer, but they freaking hibernate completely in January and February and March. Yeah. Like, everyone just kind of shuts down physically a lot from the drinking in December. And so when Amanda came back from Guy Sagrada, I was already in this place of questioning and searching for ways to feel better, because being depressed at that point in my life was jarring, because I didn't have a next step. I had always had a next step until that moment. And then, like, comedy as a career was taken out, and I couldn't answer any questions past that. It was weird. And I'm like a daydreamer son of a bitch. Like, I'm in here. I mean, I got worlds, you know what I mean? I love thinking of awesome scenarios and vacations and parties and people and instances and dance floors and whatever.
But there was this big block.
It was a block. I was like, how do I get there? And
because we had been dreaming of comedy for quite a while and kind of planning that as a, just like, not even as a, just like as like that was our thing. And it's like when that thing's taken away. And also New York was taken away. Like, my dream of New York was taken away. Shut the fuck down. New York is not what it used to be. Obviously, everyone knows this. It goes through cycles. They told us that. We didn't believe them. It's just not what it used to be, man. And there's no use getting into that. It's not what we wanted.
For better and for worse, right? Like, I don't want it to be like Junkies in Tompkins Square Park. Well, I have that now. And I would say I don't want it to be that. And I didn't need it to be the burnout apartments. But we need the art, and our art in particular wasn't so good. And so the minute Amanda got back, we sat on the couch, and you were going into that corporate job.
Oh, yeah.
And I was still serving.
We have another podcast about that. That's like goes into detail. But yeah, we had these shitty jobs. I came back, I had no money. I'd spent it all. And I was like, I got to get a job. So I got this stupid sales job that was just absolutely dumb. It lasted like 6 weeks. I got sick, lost my voice. And then that was the summer when we were like, what do we really want? What do we really, really, really want?
Like, we really were like, if we could have anything.
Anything.
Because we couldn't even think of careers. So we're like, anything.
Just anything, period.
We said we just want to be like outdoors, beach, pool vibe.
Outdoors,
right? Beach, pool.
I missed nature.
Hang out in nature. And we didn't even wait to see if that was possible, but we said we definitely don't want to be working these fucking jobs.
Yeah.
And we quit them. Both of us, right there.
I got fired because I couldn't have a voice.
You didn't go. It was going to be like, if you didn't go to work that day, you were going to get fired. And so you didn't, and then I called and gave my 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And
that was awesome.
we slept on it. And the next day, our friend Jaylee picks up this phone, and she's like, hey, so I'm manager of the Sloppy Tuna in Montauk, and it comes with a house.
Yeah.
And it came with a house in the best part of Montauk.
The best beach in all of
And she had an extra freaking room. And she's like, you guys want to come out? We just packed up that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Done. And that just led to that was our first summer that we were like, let's get into this. Like, what is meditation? What is it? Like, what are these things that people are using, these practices?
It's because we had both really been on the tip, and we thought if we quit these jobs and move forward with this, it was almost like a test.
Yeah.
That we would explore this path that it felt like had provided this opportunity.
It had. And we didn't have to work
and we didn't know how that worked. Right. So we wanted to walk it. And we decided to do a meditation retreat. Neither of us ever having formally meditated.
No, never. But we knew we were supposed to do a retreat. But that's why we started calling them happiness retreats. Because we're like, it isn't just like all the retreats that we had seen. First of all, the word retreat. Sometimes I see people when I say it, their eyes just glaze over and they're like,
it's like yoga and it's quiet.
Do you want to come out to our meditation retreat?
We're going to unwind and reset.
Just reset our insides. Clear
yoga
things
and we'll
out.
cleanse and heal.
Just like cleanse. We're just going to cleanse.
It's like somebody that sounds like they're crying all the time.
And like it's just it's just people that would go on retreats.
I wouldn't have a great time with them.
I know.
They'd have a great time with me.
Which is why we started doing them.
Right.
Which is why we're like, people like retreats that we do because guess what a retreat is? A longer house party.
It's a long
with
format house party
spirit.
With the spirit of healing, sure, still, and of openness, too.
I know.
Where a lot of people don't have the chance to be open and speak their truth and relax and let loose and have fun and be
area
playful.
Of non-judgment.
And when you are in a non-judgmental space like that, you open up. And when you open up, you can look inside and do a little dusting out of old stuff.
Right.
That's the easier way for openness, healing, and self-exploration for us.
I think it is, yeah. And I think in a group, it's, like that's what I really liked about Gaia Sagrada is like somehow those groups, it's 24 to 28 people in those groups. And you're like, how the fuck am I ever going to tell these people my most intimate secrets? And not only that, but we only got 12 days. Like we got to, and that's what long story short, Heather and I ended up going back to Gaia Sagrada last year and working there. And I was kind of leading the retreats and leading the guests, and she was leading the whole kitchen and making all the food. And I mean,
it
doing
totally
a lot
added to
else.
doing that first retreat in Montauk all summer. And then we put it into practice in Ecuador for 50 people.
Right.
And actually ran a whole bigger retreat for months. Yeah. And when we took the helm of that, it was a time where it was broken. And after 2 years, it had really gone through a tough time with staff quitting and upheaval.
Yeah.
And the main people that had been working there before had left. And they hadn't left any directions in place. No structure. So cooking for 50 people without a plan.
Leading their meetings. Like all these people,
and
some of these people are coming there with like
plan.
Major problems.
Yeah.
Major psychological
people
problems.
People were coming to this
major
ayahuasca
sicknesses.
retreat. Like some of them, it was their last. This was their last attempt at getting help. After this, they were going to end their lives.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
Absolutely, and they would say that.
Yeah,
it would come out, and not always at first, but that would come out.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is. I mean, which is why when I first went there, that I was like, I don't deserve to be here. Like I'm not as fucked up as everyone, which is not a stupid thought. I mean, it's a thought you can have, but. We all need
it. It's totally dumb. Keep it.
I know. Right? It's it's like, well, maybe mine. It's like on a scale. It's like on the scale of my life, which has been amazingly blessed and privileged. I will say, of course, as far as like being shielded from a lot of trauma and tragedy and having a good upbringing and all these things. So, but on my scale of my life in Amanda's world, I was at a pretty big low. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I wasn't at a low that some people were that had maybe more trauma or more like actual things, but that was their level.
Trauma is trauma inside.
Yeah, I know.
It has the same effects and it has the same ability to cause cancers and things like that, whether it's a broken heart or you were raped as a kid.
I know.
Your personal trauma does things to your body in just that same way. And even some people that didn't have a lot of like, okay, our classic, headline news story trauma, it would be like, they just weren't happy. And if they felt it more and if that beast raged more, it was just as big as if somebody had what we would call a tougher time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like their mental perception of it.
Yeah, some people that were depressed for like, quote unquote, no reason.
Right.
And
that was some of the biggest to untangle.
I've been depressed my whole life. I just feel this way all the time.
That was actually
no matter
harder
what.
Because they're like, now
hard.
It's just me. Like, I don't have one of these stories to tell about.
Yeah, I don't have a specific time I need to heal or a person or something. It
was of the mind.
it was of the mind. And those were tough.
Those were tough.
Because those were people's identities.
And we supported these people day in and day out, not just, getting them to and from different classes or to and from ceremony or checked in or on their way.
But completely about all their questions, all their stories.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting alone one-on-one with them while they're like kind of freaking out or nervous to start something or want to talk to you. Like you were working. We were working
24/7.
Pretty much. Yeah. We were on call 24/7 and we were always I slept for 7 hours a night. But other than that, the minute I walked down into the main area, I was working.
We woke up.
Period.
And the minute we went to bed. And it was amazing.
And it was awesome.
It was an honor. Mm-hmm. And we learned so much. And during that time, it's not like we were just running the household and the food and everything. We were getting to know these shamans, these incredible medicine women and spiritual leaders that were teaching us about ceremony and even making the medicine and watching ceremony happen and watching the answers and the conversations between a shaman and a person that was going through healing and what they'd say. So every time you're in a ceremony, you heal too. Yeah. And so then if you do it for 4 months, it's like huge, amazing work.
Huge work. And so beautiful to watch people go through these processes. Like there's nothing, and everyone says that who's worked there is like, I wouldn't take that back. Like watching this happen, watching people.
I would do it again.
I will do it again. I mean, well, in fact, we are going to be doing it again very soon.
Set up, one of our own.
This led us to our new passion, which is giving space for people to heal and knowing what that means, but also doing it in our own way,
which is happiness and more open and semi-woo and laughter and a positive space. And not that the others aren't positive, but an actively playful, open, fun healing party.
Gotta have that humor.
All right.
And we will tell you a little bit more about how this is all shaping up into our next projects for this summer when we come back.
And our last segment coming up, you guys.
Thanks for listening.
Yes. Let's get into it because the lovely Nick, shout out to Nick at Cloud Studios, the sweetest.
Yes.
Wisconsin's finest.
Oh, you know.
Oh, you don't. I was gonna do the don't you know. It's
do
you
it.
say more magazine.
Like oh, your magazine's trash bags.
And trash bags.
Can you just take out the trash bags? Absolutely.
And sometimes mine gets a little like Queen's trash bags.
They all form into each other.
And then they farm into one another.
And then
I don't even know what that one is.
Yeah, I don't know what that one is either.
But we do it and we do it and we do it right.
Minneapolis St.
And
Paul.
we do it AKA Minneapolis St. Paul.
St. Paul. Okay, guys, so this all of everything we're talking about today, and thank you to those of you listening to us. It's so fun to have an audience.
This is the fulfillment of a dream, and it's such a pleasure and honor to do it. And we were just talking about how we went from planning our own meditation happiness retreat in the Catskills of New York, and that brought us to the foothills of the Andes.
Yeah.
In Ecuador at a retreat there. And then we moved back into our lives after a year of travel and good times. Moved back. Amanda, you moved to San Diego. And I moved for the third time back to Seattle. Totally. Always calling me home.
Yeah, we had our places. In the last 8 months, we both started teaching meditation classes. Heather started Well Awake, which you guys have probably seen around town, doing all kinds of awesome meditations at co-working spaces and gyms and the WAC and everywhere. It's just taken off. And then I was in San Diego and I was starting up, I was combining the two things I loved, which is improv and then meditation. And everyone's like, what the fuck is improv and meditation? And it hit me one day that those things have so much in common because improv is all about being in the moment and it's all about speaking your truth and not judging yourself. And that's what meditation practice helps you to get to. And only very recently, and I just realized this the other day, have I been able to truly now kind of go back to improv and go, oh, I get it now because I have a meditation practice and I get what complete non-judgment, complete being in the moment is about.
Right.
And it took me years. I don't know. I've been doing improv for 9 years.
Yeah. And, it's so funny because meditation at the retreat we planned was kind of the first time I'd done it. And then when I went to Ecuador and I thought, right before I went to Ecuador, you have to go on a dieta. And so at Mindful in New York, this awesome place, I meditated pretty much every day for a month. And I felt the huge impact of it. And it was so awesome because when I was on my ayahuasca journey, this plant spirit communicated to me, hey, like, you can get this experience from meditation, and you should. This is for deep healing, which if it's just incredible healing. But that when I moved to Seattle, I hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Took classes. There's awesome classes in this town. There's awesome meditation teachers. And
but it needs a spark.
Needs a
It
spark.
needs a
It's
spark,
still
yeah.
very, and I'm very interested in the intersection of science and like the usability of it, I guess that you could say, the applicability of it into my normal life. Right. And I was going to go on this Vipassana retreat, and I was toying with it. I have a mentor that I work with. He's been a long time meditation teacher. It just didn't sound right to sit for 10 days in complete silence. And I know as a meditation teacher, maybe I shouldn't say that, but who cares, dude? 20 minutes a day is what I do, and it's right for me, and it works for me.
And for now, and maybe in the future you'll do that, but it definitely wasn't right.
But I knew
now.
I needed to go on something big. I needed a journey, and I all of a sudden, boom, this huge. We call them downloads. Another word for them is insight. It's a knowing. That you can think something, but then you know it's true, and you know you've got to do it. It was like, go to the desert. Go to the Integratron. I'd been hearing about it from all sides. Amanda had just told me that she had mushrooms, and her parents have a desert house, and she had been thinking about going to the desert.
Yeah.
So when we talked, it was boom.
And then somehow, I don't even know how this happened, because you and I have kind of up until recently, a very negative view of acid, of LSD. We always did. I was like, oh, acid. Oh, it sounds so harsh. It's like kids who go to raves.
Yeah.
Or like, it just didn't.
Like
people
ecstasy
like
tripping balls for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason. Yeah. But then your brother knew some people.
Well, we said if we need to do, because we both were like, LSD, it just seems like we should.
It makes sense.
It makes sense to do it at this moment in the desert.
Right.
And it was for a lot of these ideas of what we wanted to do with our future and how we wanted things to align. And, we've both read books about Steve Jobs and a lot of these very creative
and
business
all of my
people
teachers, like Terrence McKenna and people that I follow.
People that we read all their damn
it.
books have had beautiful experiences. So that started making sense. But I said, we'll do it if we get it easy and like with flow. And I just texted my brother. I didn't think he had it. I didn't even know he'd ever done it. And I just asked him, hey, Steve, have you ever done it? He's like, yeah, I have some. Let me send you some. I said, that's a little too easy. Free from a trusted source.
Right,
my brother's
that he knew
friends
the people
make
that made it.
I'll edit you out of this, bro.
Maybe not, man.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. No one cares about
Maybe you call me back and then I'll edit it out. God, call me back.
Come on, man. So we go to Joshua Tree, not really knowing. We planned this kind of like 8-day thing. We thought
we knew it was going to be a retreat.
We kept calling it up.
It wasn't a vacation.
Views. It wasn't. But I didn't know that compared to what it became. I had no clue. I had no clue the depths that we were going to go.
Deep it was going to
I thought it was going to be like, we're going to go to the pool and the beach and like talk about stuff and like talk about our futures and, what we want to do. But it was just like it was bananas.
From the minute we sat down, we started to unravel our relationship from its past to its present. And it has changed so much. Dramatically from a very, where we both were very sensitive and not speaking our truth. So we assumed a lot of things about each other. We projected our own things onto. We call it slingshotting, where basically you put in the other person's head something you think. And then you blame them and hate them and are rough with them because it seems like
that they were the ones
they're
that did
thinking this thing that you're thinking they're thinking. We've all been there.
I know. But we had olds just like all the way from specific stuff to like general stuff that we just had to clear out. It was really like, but we forget
arguments.
That if you go into a dusty room and you kick up the dust, like it gets in your
face.
It
gets in your mouth and you're angry about it and it sucks. And it takes
and it hurts.
time to get the dust to frickin' settle. But if you never whip up the dust and you're just tiptoeing around this dusty room that's growing and growing. Right. And that is what our relationship, I mean, not that dramatic, but had become where it didn't seem like we could say anything to each other.
Yeah, because we were so sensitive.
Yeah,
and
there was so much stuff behind that we might whip up the dust and oh my God.
Right.
And what was cool was we did whip up dust. And there were moments where it was a lot. But we breathed through it and we talked it out, man. And
we
just
tried to give space to people, and I never knew what this meant of like holding space. Like all the woo-woo people would always say, they'd be like, I was just with my friend Brittany and I was just holding space. I was just there and I was just holding space. And I was like, what the fuck does this mean? Does it mean that you like stand in a room and you kind of like just quietly
Like
look at
hold-
someone?
like hold them as
Do you
they
physically
weep, or-
use your arms and kind of like make a big
Right.
circle? I really didn't know. In context, it made sense to my brain, like
Sure.
being patient, kind of like listening.
It resonated. I didn't
but I didn't
know.
get it. I
Right.
didn't know that it meant
to non-judgmentally
zero
hear
judgment.
someone
And let them
know
work
that
it out
is
themselves.
and know that it is a perspective and it has nothing to fucking do with me.
No, I know.
It is, I am hearing them, I'm listening, and I'm not trying to be like, well, I would do this. I would think, I will think, well, really, what's
shouldn't.
right? And there was so much of us wanting to be right.
I
Where then
know.
all of a sudden, and we are so close, and we share so much in common, that it's very hard for us to believe that we're these two individual people, but
That
we're
like
very
different
individual.
things that,
But we're so then the same on these other things that it's just so fun when we can rap. So when the other one doesn't like something or thinks a different way, it can feel like an argument.
Right.
Because it's jarring.
So we really got into every single day. We were like in California for a few days, and then we were in my parents' house, and then we went out to Joshua Tree. But we really got into using marijuana in a ceremonious way as opposed to just a recreational way, which is now pretty much the only way that I use it. I mean, it's occasionally, of course, marijuana is great for relaxing, and
by the lake, but even then, we're having these beautiful conversations where marijuana is used to unlock doors
it
of
does.
thinking.
It majorly does. So basically, after we go into Joshua Tree, and we set up our land because we love setting up lands. We got our chairs, a little day camp, and we drop acid. And I did one, and Heather did two. Like, I think that was a really beautiful choice to like. Yeah. I was definitely there with you completely on the journey, but just not like 100% as much.
I could tell, like, I tried to explain to Amanda when we were in that journey that like. Everything I was going, I wasn't like so far beyond where she was at. I wasn't like trying to jump off a cliff and she's trying to save me. But the viewing of the time-space reality, the hearing this chemical kind of speak and explain what it knew about time-space reality and loops. You saw loops too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just a little more insight into that world that they're.
It's like that's the number one thing I'd say about LSD is it takes everything that you understand as linear and makes it circular.
So where you could see
time, history, your ancestors, they're just circles, they're loops, it's not linear. It's not, it made sense to me.
And how one thing can affect a whole. So a really big part was when you feel bad, the whole thing dims a little bit. And when you feel better, the whole thing kind of lightens a little bit. And like everything your parents did was out of love to help you. And that if anything and it hurt you in their attempt, that you let that go to heal that so that your parents' dream to love you works. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
it does.
I mean, man, it was just seeing these beautiful pictures of how healing works. And a lot of it was being happy and staying positive and seeing the good and using that to propel you forward or to view things maybe that don't feel so good. And at the time I thought it meant just the bright things and the light things, but it was also showing me our shadow sides, these sides to us that maybe like aren't, that we think we have to heal, but that it makes us a whole person.
Yeah. And that
we're not these
that.
flat, one-sided things. That's what contrast. I mean, that's so scientific. Dark and light, and shadow and light,
right?
And
not
contrast,
one without the other.
And balance, and spectrum, and like, of course, you're always on a spectrum on all these different things.
On a million
and
different
every
things.
person is. As many people in the world, there's these combinations.
And so, how can we possibly? I feel like this is the number one message of any time I've done psychedelics. Usually, is like, love yourself. Stop fucking judging everyone else.
Yep.
The end.
Get your nose out of other people's shit.
Get your nose
and into your own,
because you have a different story, and if all you're trying to do is compare how you're better, you're just trying to make your damn self feel better, and that's your ego, and that's stupid.
And it doesn't
work. It just makes you more. It just draws more
negative
anger
thought
toward
your
you.
way into feeling better.
There's no way. There's no way. And
I tried it. I used
to try it.
It just creates a world of people that are your enemies and that are stupid and uglier and could at any moment threaten your stance of being so great and awesome and better than everyone else.
Yeah. Because when you see the infinite abundance of endless opportunity for everyone and everything because of infinity, when you stare into that void, you're like, nothing anyone can do can take anything away from you. It can only make it better. Anyone doing your art, anyone doing your passion, anyone doing the exact job you want is only making it a bigger opportunity for you.
For you.
It's not taking anything away ever. It's only because it's a creative universe. It only creates more.
And more and more. It has become a beautiful practice to get people's stories and learn about them and be like, here's how you relate to me. And then you start collecting stories, because in the knowing people, their light side for sure, but even in their shadow side, you start seeing yourself. And you're like, oh my God, I'm a control freak too.
Oh my gosh. So after we did LSD, which was absolutely insanely beautiful, right toward the end, as we were, well, I wouldn't say we were coming down. We thought we were. When it was, the sun was setting and it's in Joshua Tree, and it's purple and it's blue and it's teal and it's yellow and it's orange and it's trees and it's just nothing you've ever seen.
Like nothing.
And then we had talked a little bit earlier about this, but we had this insight of like who we are as a tribe.
Yeah.
And
we saw very clearly this frontiers woman, what was it? Pistol Annie. But like,
well, Annie Oakley,
right? Like her. But we saw ourselves with the hats and the braids and the leather dresses and these pistols and the horses riding west.
Yeah.
Exploring new frontiers, these fearless women that ride off into the unknown, and it's the unknowns of the mind, which me and Amanda very much explore these frontiers.
And yourself, the unknown parts of yourself that you wouldn't dare explore because it scares the shit out of you.
You think it's going to be crappy because we've been told, some of us have been told that we are crappy, we feel crappy.
And that's where you get your pistols, and that's what we learned is like, that's what we got we do our little hands and these little pistols.
And you shoot away these bad feelings about ourselves.
You shoot away all the negativity and the bullshit and those stupid voices in your head
and
that say you can't
do things. And self-judgment. Yes, there is a shitty side to all of us. No, you don't have to feel bad about it.
No.
You don't have to
constantly
feel bad
over
about
and
it.
over and over.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrifying. So we get back from Joshua Tree, we're back in the desert, and we sit down and just have this explosion of creativity. And we're like, here's what we're doing this summer. At this point, I didn't even know I was going to be in Seattle. I thought I was staying in San Diego.
By the way, no.
Didn't even know. I was like, okay, we'll do it together. We want to write a course about everything we've been learning about modern spirituality and this like semi-woo kind of what we're talking about now. Is like, how do you apply these esoteric sounding or from all these different religions or histories or cultures, like how do these apply to me?
And Palo Santo.
Yeah, how does this apply? Like, what does it mean?
Yes.
How can I use it without it being like, I don't want to have to get into that whole world.
Like, make it accessible, make it more modern. It hasn't been polished and refined since this Buddhism. And now that word Buddhism has become synonymous with meditation or spirituality, because it was. In the 70s, it was Christian, it was Catholic, it was Buddhism. Buddhists even encapsulated things now that people would never put it under the umbrella of.
Yeah. So this all led us to one of our biggest projects that we're doing this summer, and the podcast, of course, being one of them. And thanks, guys, for listening again.
Thank you.
We're getting toward the end, which is making me a little sad, but we would be remiss if we didn't tell you about kind of the coolest, biggest project we're working on this summer, which is, guess what? It's another retreat.
Yes, it's a retreat. It's our second retreat, bigger, badder, better. It's called Forestland, and it's out in the forest of Sammamish in my beautiful family home. And that we've spruced up to be a meditation retreat, but left all the circa 1990s wealthy black family knickknacks. If you did not grow up as a black person in the 90s, please come to our museum.
If you just want to come for that reason alone, you're like, I don't really care about the exploring myself.
The lacquer, the
giant,
yadros,
the giant chairs,
the giant fan chairs.
Ooh,
please.
It's great. It's going to be awesome. So this is going to be, it's a 3-day retreat. There's 2 of them in July, the 17th through the 19th, and then the 21st to the 23rd.
Yeah.
They're really small, and there's already people signed up.
About
so
6
if
to 8
anyone's
people.
interested, I mean, it's very, 6
and
to 8
what we'll
people
do,
max,
we will have the meditation, we'll do improv, we'll do yoga, we'll eat super healthy, but we'll also have 2 plant medicine ceremonies. So the first night we'll do a shadow ceremony led by me, Heather, and we'll use marijuana to get into a space where we're allowed to see those sides of ourselves that we think are funky and be able to just be with them. Maybe even laugh at them, and definitely connect with other people on them.
Yeah.
And we'll learn how to be with those sides.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then on Saturday, we're going to be doing a light ceremony with me, Amanda, with magic mushrooms. And this is so cool because I hear this people, they're like, oh, mushrooms. I didn't hear the concert and that was kind of weird. And there's this
did them in
people
a
around.
mall.
I was
a
at
tight,
Disneyland.
hot room.
I've always told people, like, if you've ever wanted to explore the actual, like, real benefits of these medicines, which there are so much for your psyche and even physically, for they're wonderful, but you have to do it in an environment where someone who knows about them, you have a trip sitter or a babysitter, which we will have, where someone who is not with the medicine is watching over you, so you feel safe. You're in a private home. Everything about the environment is completely 100% safe. So then if you giggle, or if you like make a stupid sound, or if you like, you may start crying, or whatever happens,
it's all encouraged.
You're not gonna have some weird friend there who's like, idiot,
come on, still good. It'll be encouraged. B, it will be reflected in other people.
Yeah.
And it will be fun. It's just gonna be great.
Super awesome.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that. You can find out more below. We'll link you to our website, thebuenavida.net.
Yep.
And thanks for listening, guys. We'll see
Thank you.
again
This has
down
been
the
awesome.
road.
Thanks again to Nick and Cloud Studios for this time. And we'll definitely be back with more interviews, stories to tell, and more about this.
And we love your comments and questions and anything we get. And as crazy as it may sound, if something we said sparked something in you, ask a question, ask away, make a comment, let us know. We love. Cool. As you